This is how I modified this Radio Shack Porsche GT1. This is a vintage RC, but I modified it so it just performs better and is easier to drive. I have a video of this running in stock form. It's decently quick, but it was a little hard to control because the steering was just the full left, full right that you usually find in a lot of toy grade RCs. So I decided to add some modern electronics so I can get the proportional control and steering and just bring out the potential of this vintage RC. So here's what I did. To the chassis, what I did is I cut out the top piece and the bottom piece through the battery tray. So when the car is all put back together, I can access everything underneath, and then there's plenty of room to put all the stuff I need. This car is the type that has twin motors. You can see on the bottom here, there's a motor here and a motor here. I think they're about like a 370 size type motor. So I just followed the wires off the circuit board and put the two yellows together, the two blues together, so it runs the motors at the same time. And just soldered on some connectors for my brushed ESC. The brushed ESC I'm using is a 60 amp brushed ESC, so they just plug into here. It has a Tamiya connector, and so to power it, I'm going to use this nickel metal hydride battery at 9.6 volt. That gives it plenty of power. I'm just using a controller and receiver from one of my hobby grade RCs. And now we'll take a closer look at what I did for the steering. This is what I did for the steering on this. I took out the original steering motor and put in a standard servo, just one I had laying around. And here's how I got it in there. Originally what's in that spot is the steering motor in kind of a box housing, and it essentially is almost the exact same size as a standard servo. So I just took that out of there. I used a piece of the plastic that I cut out of this part to create a little shelf in here to hold the servo up high enough to be similar to how the original one was mounted in here. And then I just secured it down with some screws and a little zip tie to keep this from moving around. So it's snug in there. And then this piece here comes off and goes back on, and there's the natural opening here, so that also helps kind of contain it in there. I just reused the original steering arm that came off the old RC. I turned it around, cut off the bottom a little bit so it moves back and forth smoothly, and then just attach it to the servo. The opening in that was actually the same size that fits on this servo, and I just secured it with a screw. I put a little washer behind it to help it hold it on there better. There's not a lot of weight on these front wheels, so that servo, that doesn't slip any. Haven't noticed anything yet. So that's just a quick overview of how I put a servo in here for the steering. I also added some lights to the body shell. There are some natural openings in the front and in the rear. So I just took a standard light set that had just front and rear lights and just stuck them on there to where they shine through those openings. And so when kind of aimed them at those holes there, and so when they're on, it just shines through the body shell. As you can kind of see in the back, there's an opening there and there, so the lights just shine through that part. And in the front, you can see there's that little square opening, except that's see-through. So the lights, when they're on, shines pretty decent through there. So that's how I did the lights. Okay, this is a quick comparison between old and new. This is just how the old is set up. As you can see, there's a box here. It's got the motor and that arm that steers. It's just a full left, full right type steering that's not proportional. It's got the little spring action in there to return it to center, and a little centering dial piece underneath. And in the top here, this is where the old-fashioned big circuit board is. And so you can see on this one, what it is, I just cut out that top piece. This whole piece actually comes off. I cut this out later. And then underneath, there's a battery compartment here on the original. So what I did on this is I just hollowed out the battery compartment so I can access everything from underneath and have plenty of room to fit everything in here when the body shell is on it. All right, that's everything stuffed down in there with the car put back together. And then the battery will just go right here. All right, that's where the battery fits, so everything fits right in there.